Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Be- Beautiful day in paradise. I'm keeping my voice down because my daughter said I can't talk loud. I'm in the basement of her house, and not here to gotta not wake everyone up. And it's a beautiful day in paradise. Is Dr. Nelson joining us today?
I think he is. I think he's having some technical issues, it seems.
All
I see
right,
him
all
down
right,
there, but
all right.
he'll be
Well, we
here in a
got
second.
all right. Well, we
We
got also a number of people joining us, and Michael Kummer. Is that how you pronounce it, Michael?
That's how I pronounce it, yes.
Awesome. He's with us today and going to talk about his carnivore journey and some of the things that he's doing. And why don't you start off, Michael, and introduce yourself and how you got into this carnivore world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And it all really started with paleo many, 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 many years ago when Paleo FX was still a thing. And a friend of ours introduced me. He was actually doing paleo already for a while, and I always found it funny that he wouldn't eat certain things. And I kept asking him, hey, can you eat this? Can you eat that? Nutrition wasn't really. I used to be a pro athlete, track and field back in my youth, but nutrition was never really a thing. Neither was sleep or any of the other things that I try to pay more attention to these days. But he kind of opened my eyes to that maybe, humans should not be eating the way they do. And maybe we should be going back to, how humans have been eating long, long time, depending on how long you think we've been around. There are varying opinions on that, but nonetheless, it's been a while. And that started, and paleo back in the days really meant, meat and a side of something else. That was how we, what we would consider paleo. And then only later, the paleo bandwagon kind of, took off, and you could make everything paleo. I mean, you could be
Yeah.
eating, sweet potatoes all day and it was paleo. And so that's kind of how it all started. And from there we got into keto, into restricting carbs, into fasting, intermittent fasting, paying more attention to sleep, and at some point then cold exposure, heat exposure. Even though I did sauna bathing when I was an athlete, but not really thinking. It was more like, let's chill out and relax after an intense workout, not necessarily because of any other health benefits that I was aware of. And so that kind of started everything off. And then along the way, I realized that it's incredibly difficult to make the right choices in our modern world. And there is so many things that you really gotta take more control over, which makes it even more inconvenient than feeling like you're swimming upstream. And so fast forward to where we are now. I mean, we have now a homestead. We raise animals for food because we realize that even the best raised animals you can buy or meat you can buy in the store is not what I would like to eat long term. And especially when it comes to monogastric animals, I mean, ruminants are a little bit easier or more difficult to mess up, I should say, and easier to source well.
Mm.
But monogastric animals, in particular poultry and pigs, it's junk food, what's out there. And so we got into raising chickens and turkeys and guinea fowl and rabbits and pigs, and we are still waiting on our first cattle delivery. So we have the primary source of what we eat, which is beef. Finally, under our own control as well. And yeah, I mean, from there, it's really anything in between. We try to eat as much nose to tail as possible, not only the ribeyes, and which coincidentally is the name of our German Shepherd, who is a true carnivore, the only true carnivore in this household who eats nothing but meat and fat and bones. And so yeah, we cold plunge, we sauna bathe, we exercise regularly. I mean, just by the nature of raising animals, you're moving your body and lifting, feedbacks and all those things. So I don't necessarily have to go to the gym as often as I used to. I just work out as part of the lifestyle. And yeah, and that's kind of, what led us to where we are right now.
And tell us a little bit about how physically, mentally, you and or your family has seen the changes going from standard to paleo and now carnivore centric.
I'm, I think the biggest change was really when we removed most food categories. That was the biggest change, especially for my wife, who was pre-diabetic at the time when we met, and with constant headaches and like all of those ailments that most people just have gotten used to. That was the biggest change, by just removing all processed crap food and focusing on real food. And as I said, the paleo at the time was really a beef-centric, or at least a meat-centric diet. It was, I think, closer to carnivore than a modern paleo diet would be these days, I want to argue. And so that was a huge change. And for me, I just, I got shredded. I didn't necessarily work out more, but I just lost a lot of body fat. I, I went to 10% body fat or less by just doing my regular exercise routine, and somehow my browser just disappeared. There it is. And we just, my brain started working better, less brain fog or no brain fog. Everything, I just felt incredibly well, which in reality was just feeling normal. I just didn't know it at the time, right?
Yeah.
Because you get used to your baseline, and whatever your baseline is, that's normal. And from there, you kind of judge, do you feel good or bad? But I would have always, if you would have asked me back in the days, I would have said, yeah, I feel good. I mean, everyone says they feel good until they figure out what feeling good really means. And then like, oh boy, I felt like crap for most of my life, and I didn't even realize.
And tell us a little about your homesteading and how you're digging into the carnivore lifestyle and helping others with products and things.
Yeah, so we don't sell any of the meat we raise. I mean, occasionally we do because we have too much and we can't eat it all. But it's predominantly for us. But one thing that we've learned is to really understand food quality better, and to understand what it takes and why a well-raised chicken cannot be sold for $7 at Costco. It's impossible. And just to give you an example, because chicken is such a great example, because it's fast food, when you buy it in the store, even if it's organic chicken or whatever. But it costs us approximately, and this is only feed cost, this is not labor, this is not infrastructure, nothing else. It costs approximately somewhere between $25 to $30 per chicken in feed to raise an appropriately raised, like pasture raised, rotationally grazed, quote unquote, and organic, low PUFA, corn, soy free feed. So the most expensive feed you can basically buy, in addition to allowing them to find insects, because chickens are not vegetarians either. They are insectivores. They are, I guess, a version of a carnivore, if you will. I mean, they're omnivores. They eat everything, but they are significantly closer to eating or to thriving on meat than on plant-based matter. But if you buy like a carton of eggs in the store and it says vegetarian fat hens, that already tells you that they are admitting that they fed the chicken a shitty diet, right? And so that was a huge eye-opener. I'm like, okay, first of all, eating well is not inexpensive in the sense of, how we value food. But I also think that food and nutrition generally is significantly undervalued. We spend not enough on that, and probably too much on cars and some other things, maybe housing even. And so that shift in mindset, that was eye-opening. I'm like, okay. If we want to have chicken, that chicken dinner is more like a delicacy than what we should be having every day, because we can't afford eating chicken 3 times a day. But beef, on the other hand, what you need to raise beef well, mostly what you need is time to rotate the animals every day, because everything else, the sun is for free, the water is often for free if it comes down from above, and the grass is the result of sunshine and rain and air that grows, and all you need to do is really invest the time to raise them to rotate them every day, and there is no external input otherwise. And so ruminant should be the bulk of our diet. That's the most feasible way of eating, and then everything else, monogastric meat, should be the exception. But in this world, it's kind of the opposite. Chicken is inexpensive. Everyone eats chicken. They think it's it's lean, it's healthy, it's cheap. It's really none of those things if you think about it.
Why do you think? What is it about paleo that that um, paleo carnivore centric that makes this way of eating so much more healthy for humans? And you mentioned mindset a little bit, brain fog, and you mentioned, I mean, insulin resistance and type 2
Hmm.
diabetes is on the rise and hitting so many people. What is it about the paleo carnivore lifestyle that changes things?
Yeah, I think it excludes by definition a lot of the foods that are incredibly problematic, right? It's not that, and let's just use grains as an example, you know. There is not really any need for humans to consume grains. I would argue there is no need for humans to consume plants. Um, you can have them, some of them, if you know how to mitigate their defense chemicals, their issues, you know, by fermenting, sprouting, doing things that
Hmm.
humans have learned over many, many years. But it takes extra time. It takes knowledge, it takes expertise to make those plants less problematic. You know, they're always going to be problematic to varying degrees, but you can make them at least less problematic. If you buy a piece of meat, it's a steak, let's say, even if you buy that, even if you go to McDonald's and you buy the burger patties only, it's very difficult to mess it up and to make them unhealthy. They might not be grass-fed, grass-finished, and the whole 9 yards regeneratively raised, but even conventionally raised meat has less problems than the best raised plant, right? So I think that in itself is why it's healthier. There are less. You need to know less to make the right choices. Those who prepare them have less opportunity to mess something up, and it's overall just compatible out of the box. You know, you don't need to do stuff to it to make it less problematic.
And are you seeing an uptick in the number of people that are utilizing this way of living?
Yes, but of course we live in an echo chamber, you know, so I don't know if what I see around me is necessarily what's happening in the grander scheme, but at least among our circle of friends and acquaintances, we do see that more people get into realizing that, you know, maybe seed oils aren't great, that plants really do have toxins and you need to do stuff to it. They start making sourdough bread instead of buying store-bought bread, and, you know, start reading labels. So yes, I do think that's happening. Again, if that's just in our kind of small world
Hmm.
where we influence people whether or not we want to, or if that's happening in a grander scale, I don't know. But considering, I guess, the political climate right now and you know, the new food pyramid, I'm hoping that this is catching on and not just a localized phenomenon.
And the rest of your family, how are they doing in this way of living?
Yeah, I mean, our immediate family, wife and kids, you know, I mean, we do what we do. So they thrive in that. I mean, our kids are homeschooled, you know, they do chores every day. They feed the animals. They, you know, participate in slaughtering and dispatching the animals. So they are very much ingrained in this whole lifestyle. And for them, it's normal, you know, and everything else that if they see someone, you know, smoking a cigarette, I'm like, what is this person doing? You know, if I don't think that's good for them. And I'm like, well, you know, that's not everyone does the way things the way we do. So our extended family, they are kind of, you know, in that echo chamber, as I've mentioned before, where they start asking more questions. They start seeing what we do and how it's been working for us and start adopting. Not everyone is doing exactly the way things we do, but people are catching on and at least are questioning the status quo. And I think that's really an important first step to not just take everything for granted just because you've been doing it for all your life, but to start asking questions. You know, does this really make sense? How does it make me feel if I eat this? You know, how does it make me feel if I only eat meat for a day? And why do I feel better? You know, and
Hmm.
from there you kind of make your own decisions and make your own lifestyle choices and figure out what's working for you, because what's working for me might not be working for you and vice versa. But you know, you gotta ask questions and stop just following what everyone else is doing. I think that's the key message here.
And what about fasting? Do you support fasting? Is it something you've
Yes.
tried and done? And,
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, I think, fasting, there are those who say, oh, it's terrible for your health, gonna wreck your hormones, don't do it. And then there are those who say it's the best thing you can, do. Everyone should be fasting every single day, don't eat anything at all. So that's, full autophagy all day. And I think, both ideas are very misleading and lack nuance. One thing is for certain, I think that having access to food all the time at unlimited quantities, like most of us do, that doesn't exist in nature. That's ridiculous thinking that that's how it should be. I also do think that if you look and observe nature, those who have access to more food and typically doing better in terms of reproducing offspring and doing all of those things, but there is a threshold, and if you pass that threshold, you're gonna get the negative side effects of eating too frequently and too much. I think the body needs a rest. You should not be eating 5 times a day. I also don't necessarily think you should be eating only once a day for the rest of your life. I think you should kind of mimic what's happening in nature, take food availability, or at least try to mimic variations in food availability. And I think that's the definition of intermittent fasting. By default, we've gotten to a kind of 16/8-ish rhythm that feels best for us. I don't feel hungry right now, so why would I eat breakfast? Even if I had to go to work, I would probably try to delay my eating until I'm hungry and not eat before, just because it's breakfast time or dinner time. And so, yes, I absolutely do believe in intermittent fasting. I do believe that your digestive system needs a break. I think the human body needs a break every so often from eating. I've done, and I'm not, a crazy faster where I would not eat for 3 weeks or anything, but typically my longer fasts are 48 hours. And I've been experimenting with kind of, mimicking unsuccessful hunts where I would fast, then at the 24-hour mark, I would do an intense CrossFit workout, still not eat because the hunt wasn't successful. I actually did a CrossFit competition then at the end of my 48-hour fast, and then I would eat. I would kind of say, okay, this competition, I had to go all in, and I was successful. My hunt was successful. Now I can feast. Not necessarily something I would encourage you to do very frequently because it absolutely drains you with 2 workouts and not eating. But I do believe that humans should be able and capable of doing this every so often because in nature this would happen, if unless you're kept or you're in captivity, you're not gonna get your feed at a certain time of the day every single day, and so you kind of you have to do what nature does. I think that's been proven to work incredibly well over many, many, many years. And trying to outsmart it and saying, okay, now I need to eat 3 times a day with snacks in between. Can that help maybe at a time where maybe, if you're, a woman at childbearing age and you want to conceive, maybe eating more to give your body the signal that, food is plentiful. We have the resources to conceive a baby and, sustain it. That might be a good thing, but doing that for the rest of your life, maybe
yeah.
not such a great idea.
Well, I think we're fat driven. Fat is our fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Fat is our building blocks. And obesity is biologic and not pathologic.
Mm-hmm.
And we absolutely thrived and survived on more fasting in
Yes.
our ancient times. And men and women are the same. They're not different. Our biology and physiology is the same. We're not meant to be skinny, and that is our biggest problem. And plants, if they're non-toxic and are likely consumed with fat from meat, rare to raw, is probably our ancient nature.
Mm-hmm.
But think about the time and energy. Which we hunted those big beasts, but how much foraging would you need to do for plants and processing for plants in order to make them less or non-toxic and digestible to
Mm-hmm.
the human body?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to do that. I mean, yes, if I stumble over, whatever wild plant there was, or a berry or whatever, I would collect it and eat it, but I would not, build my life around collecting enough berries to sustain a 2000 or even more, because they were not sedative, like we are now. They probably burned through significantly more calories just in search for food and shelter and everything. I'd rather go for that beast, right? And then feast the entire tribe for a week instead of, having to collect berries every single day and starve.
yeah, yeah, and think about it. You alone could go out and hunt the beast and bring home the sustainable food for your family. But to go out and collect grass and grains and feed your family, you couldn't do that.
Right. Yeah.
And the industrial way of eating basically is built on soldiers, slavery, peasants, and prisoners.
Hmm.
That whole system flourished because of a plant centric diet,
Yes.
which creates creates us to be criminals and depressed and suicidal and sick.
Yeah.
And the whole system requires the armies and the governments, which are highly dictatorial and damaging to our brothers and
Yeah.
sisters.
Yeah. That's
That's it.
exactly right.
It's and ultimately, the what does Keto Mike have to say about the more he studies addiction, dopamine, the more I see why conventional diets fail at 95%. The cravings are huge. 2 beers a day won't cure alcoholism. Yeah, they say alcohol in moderation is okay for you. Is alcohol good for our children?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with anything that's not good, I mean, the human body is certainly capable of detoxing and dealing with a lot of things. But it's very easy, especially if you follow that, everything in moderation kind of approach. Well, what does everything in moderation mean? Cocaine in moderation. If you add all of this in moderation, I don't think that's incredibly good for you. But now, if you're a carnivore and you drink coffee, or you're a carnivore and you have a glass of wine on the weekend, is that gonna kill you? Probably not, right? But if you give the same things.
Eventually, might.
Eventually, we all
Well,
die,
we all gonna
right?
die.
But I would argue that if you allow someone else who is already not metabolically healthy to do that, and who is already at their max in the sense of detoxing and getting rid of all of the crap, and then you add the alcohol, and then you add that cigarette, that 1 cigarette a day, or whatever it might be, that sounds harmless on paper. You're already above your threshold, and so all of this is 100% damage at this point, because you don't have the bandwidth anymore to detox anything. And and that's, I think, one nuance that people tend to forget. And even if you look at, you know th- everyone has that grandma or aunt or what have you, oh, she has been smoking all her life and she didn't have lung cancer and lived to 100. Well, first of all, might be lucky, or it might not be not be true at all. But maybe she did most everything else right, and she just got away with it. And most of us, we are peeing microplastics and all kinds of stuff already. My grandmother wasn't in the same condition as I am now. I'm swimming upstream. She grew up in an environment where there were not as many toxins, where they were fasting because they didn't have food every day. She grew up during the war in Europe, and it was entirely different circumstances. And I cannot do what my grandma did and expect the same results, because I'm already damaged. I grew up at a time where we ate predominantly, well, not predominantly, but a lot of processed foods, where I was exposed to lead, I was exposed to all kinds of stuff that she never was. And so I have to be even more careful. And I think our kids now, they have to be even more careful, because there are so many things we cannot avoid, and that are difficult to mitigate because they're everywhere. And so that kind of needs to set your standard, what you can get away with. And it's unfortunately not as much anymore as people used to.
Well, we lost Dr. Nelson again. He must be having difficulties coming on today. Well, welcome everyone. It is interesting. I mean, life is dangerous. We're all going to die, and when and how we die, even as a carnivore, we don't know that.
Yeah.
I certainly feel better than I've ever felt. I'll be 70 in less than a month now, and this has been a game changer. I've been doing carnivore for nearly 15 years now. When I hit 70, that's when I claimed 15 years, but I'm carnivore centric also. I sometimes have a French fry or small amounts of baked potato, and I rarely have a sip of martini. And I agree that minimize eliminating is really it. The 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 food system okays a glass of wine a day for women, two for men. We used to in modern medicine support cigarettes as calming and okay to take, even pregnant women. Uh, think about it. The food industry controls the money also that goes to the science industry and the pharmaceutical industry. It's all owned by a cohort of companies that are working to keep sales up and the money flowing. And it's a challenge for all of us to wander through this marketing of things that are highly harmful and addictive.
Yes. Yeah. And the other, again, nuance to that is, how do you what is alcohol for you? If I go to the store and buy a bottle of wine, that could be anything. It could be laden with pesticides. It could be full of synthetic ingredients that were used as part of the winemaking. Is that going to be the same wine or the same glass of wine that if you were to raise the grapes yourself and stomp them with your feet and ferment, the wine in-house? Probably not. Entirely different product. Now, alcohol is, there is nothing good with alcohol, period. I don't think there is no benefit of consuming alcohol. That doesn't mean you can never have it, but you should be aware of it's probably a net negative, to varying degrees, depending on how many you drink. But I also think that the type of alcohol you drink also plays a role. It's like saying, okay, I only had buying a burger at McDonald's, is probably not going to be the same as if you raise your own cows, make the ground meat, turn it into patties, bake a sourdough bread from organic flour that you grew yourself, or the grains from the grains that you grew yourself, and then you turn this into a burger. That's not the same product. Yes, it is both are burgers, but they're not going to be the same product and will not have the same impact on your health. And that's one thing that you always have to keep in mind. It very much depends on what type of food in whatever category you're having. Is that something that you grew and you produced, or something that you purchased from someone who gives a crap about your health?
Well, one of the things people need to keep in mind is auto brewery syndrome. So a low-fat diet makes alcohol in our guts. Even carnivores that are eating overcooked, low-fat meals, the microbes in the gut make some alcohol. And they also damage the glycocalyx, which is the layer that protects the gut, the vessels, the lymphatics, and every cell of our body has the sugar layer that is the transmitter and receiver of information. And it really is the thing that determines what a cell does, molecule does in the body, a hormone, an enzyme. And so our standard diet for sure makes a shitload of alcohol for all of us. If you have bloating, you're making alcohol, and that's kind of a very interesting point that I think where autoimmune syndrome is real, and I think all of our diseases are a combination of the poisons from plants, the high protein, low fat diet, and the fermentation in our guts.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all, those little details and nuances that nobody takes into account. And the problem also is that you, as a consumer, I mean, you almost have to make this your life's journey to figure all of that stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody just goes out and tells you unless they're listening, to to your live stream.
Right. And I use hard seltzer. Basically, it's simply bubbly water. That's it.
Hmm.
It's a big change. It's a birth defect in my right hand because my mom smoked through her whole pregnancy. Possibly, we do know that, I'd say but the food I think is more toxic than smoking a cigarette, believe it or not,
Yeah.
which is kind of radical. But all of them are harmful. And but so is walking across the street or driving in a car, flying in an airplane. We're not here to and my grandmother lived to 104, smoked Pall Malls, drank Manhattans. Now, she had some Alzheimer's going on as she aged, but, she remarkably, we don't know the secret to living longer
Right.
at all. So that's kind of minimize, eliminate. The problem is a celebration of life has become every night rather than sometimes
Yeah.
small amounts. And I don't know how much the government supports funding for tobacco industry, alcohol industry, certainly the drug industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's where the money is. That's the problem. That's why it's an upstream or uphill battle. To do things better and right. It's inconvenient at every stage, at every single stage, and I can see why people just want to give up and say, I don't want to fight that fight anymore. I want to live too, and not just argue at every single point with everybody why you're not doing this, why I'm doing that, and trying to read labels and being frustrated why you can't find clothing that's non-toxic, why you can't find dish soap that's non-toxic. I mean, you can find all of those things, but it requires significant resources, be it time and otherwise, to find and purchase things that are better or good.
Well, I think that's where community like this sets up, and creating market spaces, and then really between food sharing or idea sharing and helping people in a communal way is really one of the most important things that we can do.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, because doing it alone is doable, but it's incredibly straining. And we all need that thought that we can do it by ourselves. I mean, we see it now even more so exposed on the homestead, saying, oh, we can, raise all of those animals ourselves. Well, you can, but it's, who is going to take care of the kids then? Or who is, preparing our meals if we're out with the animals? And who is working to, pay the bills? And, all of those things need to be taken care of. And suddenly you realize it takes a tribe, to do all of those things, because you need to spread those tasks out. Everyone does what they do best and what they like doing, and then we all, contribute and bring it together. And especially after, I think, after COVID, that community aspect has been challenged a lot, and I think we need to go back to, you know, going out of our way basically to build community.
And isn't that really why we're alive? Is to do the work to maintain life? We've actually created comfort, and someone else will do it. And you can farm it out,
Right.
essentially, rather than getting up and doing the work yourself every day. Isn't that really,
Yeah.
we want comfort and delivery, but in fact, for the majority of humanity ever existing in this world, it was you had to do the hunting,
Hmm.
right, and the preparation, the gathering, and all those things.
Yeah.
And it's fast food delivery systems, and someone else will take care of your health care.
Hmm.
Is that working?
Yeah. I don't think it is.
It's not working. Tell us a little bit about your day job.
So my day job consists of a lot of things. I would even argue that homesteading is now part of my day job because we promote it. We share on YouTube what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and so that's started producing income. I write for a blog. That's been the thing that allowed me to get into this lifestyle, to quit my day job and just work on my blog and YouTube channel. We also launched a couple of years ago an organ meat supplements company, my wife and I. So that's another income stream. And then we recently launched a non-toxic coffee brand. My mother-in-law's friend from high school. So my wife's Costa Rican, all her family is in Costa Rica. And my mother-in-law's friend from high school has a very small coffee plantation that has not seen any external inputs in terms of fertilizers or anything in over 50 years. And so she
Wow.
grows this coffee that we've been drinking for a long time. And then we realized that same with the meat, we can't find the same quality coffee. I mean, we test every batch for like 100 and something, everything from pesticides to glyphosate to mold and mycotoxins, and it's free of everything. And so we're like, you know what? We should be maybe also marketing this coffee because we're drinking it. And so we launched Terra Lava, our coffee brand as well. And so those things combined is my day job, I guess.
So you're focused on healing thy family and then spreading the wisdom and the word to the communities at large.
Yes.
So we all can live this way. We
Yes.
developed an organ and a liver supplement also, and we provide also in our standard fertility world molecular fertility supplements
Hmm.
for those that are suffering, and we absolutely focus on nutrition and mindset for our health practices
Yeah.
at CNY Fertility, and we also focus a lot on immunology because our immune system is highly damaged,
Yes.
and fasting and fatty meat are really and faith fasting and fatty meat are that foundation.
Yeah.
Where do you integrate mindset and
Yes.
spirituality in your life? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Yes. So, I mean, I think it's especially in today's world, it's so easy to be on autopilot and to just, go on and not realize what you're doing, not being present, I guess, and not paying attention to what your body is trying to tell you. And so our journey into, I guess, mindset starting really to listen to our body, and for that you sometimes need to take a break and listen, and not say, just listen. And as part of that, we've come more and more into, or we got more and more into not necessarily classical meditation, but just moments of being still and clearing your mind and not focusing on anything in particular. And I've started doing this really as part of my cold plunging, where focusing on just how you feel, and that it's not as bad as you might think, as your brain might tell you. And from there we got more into, especially as part of our journey with nature and interacting with nature, I mean, just appreciating that all of this came from somewhere, and we don't know exactly how that all came to be, and that there's got to be something that's, humans are not the pinnacle of everything. I mean, we are smart in many things, but we did not come up with all of that. And then, whatever it is that created all of this, there is something that's bigger out there. And and you got to recognize that and appreciate your role in this whole ecosystem, and that we're probably not as important as we think we are. And so that's kind of a long answer to, a combination really of things on how we try to approach, be more humble, understand that, we are lucky to be where we are. I didn't decide where I was born and when I was born. I fell into it kind of, and I just gotta make the best out of the gift that I was given and try to help others do the same.
We have some cues in there,
We
Alia.
do. Well, we'll do this one first. John
Yeah.
Hoover, what's the name of the coffee and where can you buy it?
So it's Terra Lava. Terra means earth. Lava is, well, lava. So terralava.com is where you can buy it.
Great. I put that in the chat. Sawa 1067. Where is Michael from? Does he have chickens? What do chickens eat when there is snow on the ground?
Yeah, good point. So I'm from Northwest Georgia, very close to Alabama, and about 45 minutes south of Tennessee. Originally from Austria. You can hear I don't have a southern drawl yet. German is my native language. But yes, we do have chickens and other types of poultry. And in winter, they have to eat grains and, well, they eat actually a combination of grains and animals, other animals. So, whenever we have a deer carcass, we feed it to the chickens. Whenever we have, meat scraps or, maybe from a bone-in steak or what have you, and there is still meat on there, we throw it to the chickens. So they get a combination of grains that are unavoidable in winter, at least where we live, but also animal products that we don't eat anymore.
Okay. Brian Dish, for Michael, isn't wild game fed the correct nutritional food?
Depending on where that wild game is, I mean, obviously, if you have, let's use deer as an example, I mean, deer, if they come across a cornfield, they will eat the corn. That's corn that we put there. Is that the best diet for deer? I would argue no. But we just change their environment so that they eat, even if they eat without, human intervention directly, without us feeding them directly, they would consume a diet that's probably less than ideal for them. So again, it depends. Somewhere in the wild where there's no humans whatsoever, I would argue they eat an ideal diet, but closer to humans, not so much anymore, unfortunately.
Let's see. Are your products third party or fifth party tested?
So if that's a question for supplements, we test our products 5 times as part of the manufacturing process, from identity testing in the beginning to they manufactured us third-party lab testing, and then when we receive the final product, we test it again using a third-party lab. So it's tested 5 times by third parties throughout the production or manufacturing process, if that answers the question.
Yes. Last question so far. Michael, what is your recommendation for how long you should stay in the sauna, and how many times a week should you do sauna, and what is the best temperature?
Well, there's a lot of questions, and a lot of the answers are it depends a little bit. So, depending on what you're trying to get out of your sauna session, there are studies that suggest that if you want to raise your growth hormones dramatically, stay in there for 2 times, 30 minutes. No, they actually did 4 times 30 minutes, I think, with 30 minutes in, 5 minutes out, 30 minutes in, etc. To basically destroy you completely, which causes a huge spike in growth hormone. If that's what you want to do, that's your protocol. I would not recommend for you to do that every day, because it's probably going to wipe you out and avoid all of the benefits. But usually what I do, I try to stay in somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes, again, depending on the temperature. Temperature depends on what type of sauna. So if I'm in a traditional, Finnish type sauna, I try to be over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Some of the studies suggest 187 or above to get the benefits. I just go, above 200, and I try to stay in there until I feel like that my cardiovascular system has been working sufficiently, and I feel like I want to get out because I can't do it for much longer. Those are the days or my sauna sessions when my goal specifically is to cause heat stress, to cause a release in heat shock proteins, to help my immune system, to get a cardiovascular workout in. So, I go by my heart rate basically and by my respiratory rate. And if I feel like, okay, my heart rate is at 140 and I'm breathing 20 times a minute and I feel like I need to get out, then I stay a few minutes longer and then I get out. And I do this, with sauna bathing, doing it 3 times a week, maybe a little bit more, is probably going to be good for you. But again, sauna is a stressor. Much like exercise, there is such a thing as overdoing it. So going into the sauna every single day and wiping yourself out every single day is probably not going to be good. So again, it depends. But I would say if just as a guideline, 20 plus minutes, 3 times a week at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for a Finnish sauna. From there you can adjust based on how you feel and what your specific goals are.
Maybe start with 5 minutes and titrate to see how you do. One is it is a major stressor, and it makes you feel good, but it is a major stressor on the cardiovascular system. So that's something people have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And you do cold plunges how often?
I cold plunge usually whenever I go into the sauna. I always try to do contrast therapy. I have had a time where I worked out, where I did CrossFit in the morning. I would go into the cold plunge every day right before working out, and then go to workout. These days, where I'm far away from a CrossFit gym, I typically do it in combination with sauna. So sauna, cold, and then I call it a day.
I do hot tub, cold plunge.
That sounds nice too.
Yeah. It's invigorating to the body to do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Someone's asking 30 minutes at 200. Can that cook one alive?
Yeah.
Not me, but again, it depends on, if you're super sensitive to heat, if you're not used to, those temperatures, go lower, do what you can handle. And exactly. Shorter, lower temperatures, but
shorter.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all the questions so far.
What's now? Have you been going to the meetups or creating any sort of spaces and places for people to learn more about what you're doing?
So blog michaelkummer.com. From there you can branch off, to YouTube. There is the kummerhomestead.com if you're more into, learning how to raise or seeing what we do on the homestead. Kummerhomestead.com with the corresponding YouTube channel. mkummer82 is my handle on most social media. Kummer Homestead is the handle on most social media for the homesteading. Primer Shift podcast is where I share once a week, something else that doesn't quite fit on the blog or on the YouTube otherwise. And those are the places where you can typically find me and see what I'm up to.
Dr. Nelson, are you with us today?
I am with you today. Something is going on. I don't know if I'm getting sick.
All right. We do have a meetup coming up this Saturday with Healing Humanity and Kiltz Health, combining a supercharged sharing of the Healing Humanity movie. I think there's going to be some excerpts. It'll be coming out very soon. We're really excited about that. Are there tickets left, Alia?
There are tickets left, and I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Yeah. Encouraging everyone. It's in Charleston, is that right?
Yeah, it's
Charleston, South Carolina.
It's Charleston,
Saturday,
South Carolina. That's right.
What time?
It's called North Charleston. Charleston Convention Center in North Charleston. It's 10 to 4. And then
10 to 4, and then a dinner.
Yeah, the dinner is separate, it says. But
right, dinner after that, which is a separate fee. Is that it?
Yeah.
Or is it all built in?
It's a separate fee, it says here. But I just put the link in the chat. So there
How much is the ticket?
Let's see. The ticket is.
And always think of these as investments into your health and wellness.
Right.
That's one of the most important things. What are some of the important articles do you think, Michael, that have people have really enjoyed or gotten a lot of good information from?
There is one that I wrote about the 8 tenets of living a healthy lifestyle. That includes everything from animal-based, meat-centric diet to stress management, sleep, and anything in between. So that's a good one. I think that if someone is at the very beginning of this journey and doesn't quite, it can be overwhelming, to figure out where to start and, start somewhere, do something better today than you did yesterday and keep incrementing and doing things better. There's the whole, obviously, environmental toxins, from plastic food storage containers to personal care products. I mean, there's just so much that if you're really new to all of this, like, I don't even know where to start. I would start there and kind of, go step by step and try to figure out where you can make a change right now.
Michael, are you a doctor?
No.
Okay. And maybe Dr. Nelson Alia could also comment at people here is, are we learning most of this information on a new health journey from doctor systems or the community at large?
The community.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know I learned all of this stuff not because my medical system told me, because I learned from people like Michael Kummer online. And ultimately the social media, this is such an important place to be and share ideas. I mean, this is a game changer in the world. Wouldn't you say, Michael?
I absolutely agree. It's also a double-edged sword because everyone has an opinion. And, I always tell people, don't do what I tell you. Just think and really assess how you're doing right now. Then try something. If you feel like it, try, eating a vegan diet for a half a year and see how you feel. And then you try eating only meat and see how you feel. You'll figure it out that I wasn't maybe entirely wrong. And so I always encourage people to experiment and figure it out. If you want to take the long route, just do what I did and try and figure everything out by yourself, or you can take shortcuts and do what people you trust or you think you can trust, are preaching and go from there. But
well, I think this is like ayahuasca and marijuana aren't good for us, right? And that's one of the most important things to realize that by the way, standard information in magazines and books and newspapers, there are all sorts of different sides of it too, right?
Yeah.
You're here as your own I've experimented with primary plant-based diet. I've had too much alcohol in my life. I used to smoke cigarettes as a kid. I have even had marijuana in the past, and I found my way to fatty meat, faith, and fasting.
Yeah.
And this is what I have found. And so, what can I do to help teach others? And as a physician, I'm working with my physician brothers and sisters in ways that we can share ideas and do better. And that's what this is really about.
Yeah.
That here's now a platform. This is the platform. People tell me, oh, they don't think these are good ideas and their children shouldn't learn how to use them. This is the future access for all information. And everyone has the right to access that. That's really one of the most important things to do here. Do you have any books out there yet, Mike?
No, I don't know if I have the time to write a book, but
Well, you've probably written a book in your blogs already.
yeah, well, that is true. At some point, I was thinking, just taking what I already put out there, and
And nowadays, you could just pop it together. We can do all of this ourselves, including making movies and documentaries and theater. I mean, that's what we're really recognizing is that this is a do-it-yourself world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's the critical game changer here, right?
Elizabeth wants to know if you're Dr. Kiltz from CNY. Are you Dr. Kiltz from CNY?
Hey, Elizabeth, it's Dr. Kiltz. Yes. And, a beautiful, amazing, making babies. I mean, ultimately, I learned about this nutritional stuff for my patients like Elizabeth, who 20 years ago were getting pregnant on paleo diet. So that's when I dug into paleo diet. That's when I found keto diet, and then I also then found carnivore, and I've been living it. And I probably talk. I believe our diet is the single reason why we're getting sick, or we're maintaining or becoming healthy again, and reproduction, because the microbes love the plant protein low fat diet, and they cause the disease in our gut.
Mm.
That really is so amazingly simple. That is such an important part of this story that I've been learning and sharing, right? You know, have faith in God, whether it's Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, Abraham, Lao Tse, Buddha, or it's Michael, Alia, Nelson, and all of us, right?
Yeah.
God is within us, and we're the gods. The beauty is, get up and go do something today.
Yeah.
Share some mighty wisdom and words of faith and kindness and generosity. Papa, what? Oh my God, Peter, no, no.
Peter,
We,
please email me. You know what
we
to
got
do with your
Thomas, we
new
got
shirt size, whatever your shirt
Kelly, we
size.
got Terry, we got Gloria. We got so many people here today, and that's amazing thing. Do you do any live podcasting, Michael?
I did a few Instagram live streams, but not in a long time. But I kind of like that, whole setup and with people asking questions and stuff. So I might pick that up again.
It's a this is our home, Monday through Friday, 5. It used to be 5 a.m. Eastern time. Now it's 6 a.m. Eastern time. But it's 5 a.m. somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh, Somewhere it's 5 a.m. And that's our I guess our Ohio people or something, and
Mm.
maybe Illinois a little bit, and some in Texas, and but it's really so. What's on the tomorrow's agenda
Who's
for
here talking tomorrow? Let's
yeah,
see.
and for Michael,
Uh,
what's your what's the name of the coffee? How can we get the coffee? I missed that.
Terra Lava.
Hmm.
Terra Lava.
Yep.
We'll put a link there and put that on our
Oh yeah.
our market space.
Oh,
We'll
Do you
get
have an
perfect.
all those.
affiliate
We'll get
program?
all those.
Yes.
Yep. Everyone does. Everyone
Okay.
does. Alia, your
Good.
job is to build more of that, right? They can go to our
Yeah.
marketplace, because there's both. Remember, there's wholesale and retail for everything,
Yes,
and
that's
we're
true.
all sharing together and making it happen. Yeah. Corey, Kiltz got to pay attention. I got 10 things happening at the same time, so it's all good. It's all good. But, Michael, thank you. Dr. Nelson, get some rest today. Am I going to see you in South Carolina? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Flying
Uh,
in Friday.
all right. And I'll be in there Friday night also. And I did you give me a hotel,
Do
Alia?
they?
I will, if it's not done, I will make sure it gets done this morning. Mary Ellen was
I
working on it, but we'll
Yeah,
get that
just
done.
check with that. And,
Yeah.
and I
And
did send a
anyone
half.
anyone who has done the course, first group or second group, today at 3 p.m. we have a wrap-up meeting.
I sent
And
an email out.
And let's join the course. The keto carnivore health and wellness course is critical, and we talk about faith, fasting, mindset, and more. And we got to get down to Michael's homestead and
Yeah.
get some pics
Do
and
a
hang
meetup
out.
at the homestead.
And I'm back on coffee, so I can try your coffee now.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Well, thank you, Michael, for being here. We
Thanks for
appreciate
having me.
you. And we'll put a link to make sure everyone knows where to find you. Why don't you give your last shout out where people can find you, Michael?
MichaelKummer.com.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All
All
right,
right. Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Much
Thanks a
love.
lot.